What is going on, everyone? Welcome to BP Insights. Yeah, so I've noticed that, at times when you just don't make the approach with women at the gym, I notice they kind of just like, or whether it's the gym or the grocery store, they almost just kind of start to think you're weird or there's something off about you. Because, I talk about women want to really write off men quickly. That's one thing I noticed, that if they're giving you indicators of interest and you don't approach them, they start to think one of either a couple things. Either one, he's not confident, or two, he's a creepy weirdo, or, well, I guess both. So those are the main two things they really start to think if you do not make the approach. They either think one, he's weird, two, he's a creepy weirdo, or both. He's a creepy weirdo and he's not confident. So that's the thing. And that's funny. I saw a meme. That's kind of how like women shoot their shot, is they really just try to make eye contact with you. And if they don't, like if you like don't hold it or you look away too quickly, they just assume you're not interested. That's not really the game, but that is the game. That's female game. They're so indirect with things. It's crazy how indirect they are. Like, sometimes you'll get a choosing signal at the gym. This girl will come next to you on the bench press. Like I told this story on TikTok. This one girl came next to me, or was standing in front of me doing some sort of like a dumbbell workout, sticking her butt out kind of towards me. And at first I'm thinking like, it's funny because like your first initial response, my first initial response was not like that's a choosing signal. I was kind of like just confused and puzzled for a minute. But what's funny is, that's the thing about guys. Guys get so used to rejection that sometimes that doesn't even come in. That doesn't even cross your mind that can be in your reality of something that would happen. So that's kind of what happened there. I was kind of just confused at first. Then she was following me around the gym, and I did not have the confidence at the time to make the approach. But afterwards, I was just thinking, man, it's crazy how indirect women can be. She's just so indirect, it's just so, like, it's crazy. Like, obviously I talked about how I didn't approach, but it's one of those things where it's like, you do all that to garner attention, but you can't just say hi. I think that, that's just women trying to avoid rejection, because rejection really hurts them so badly. So they're going to do everything they can to get the man's attention without talking to them, because they don't, if they can sleep a little bit better at night when they're indirect and the man just doesn't talk to them, then they can assume, maybe, I think she can just, because I think she probably went home and think, oh, this guy just didn't have the balls to approach me, something to maybe soothe their ego. But in reality, he never said a word to me. So how do I know? That's the thing. See, that's the problem men have, is sometimes men are at like, so I was talking to a guy and he said his buddy goes to the gym and shoots a shot every day at the gym. You got to respect the hustle, but at the same time, okay, number one, what are you going for the gym for? You're going to the gym to work out. And if your focus starts to take a turn towards just approaching women, how focused are you then at that point on, are you on your workout? If you're too focused on looking over here, and I fall victim of this. Sometimes you're at the gym. There's a lot of attractive girls. It's a college campus gym. There's a lot of attractive girls there on most days. It obviously depends on when you go, but you fall in the trap of kind of looking around, and then you start to think like, I'm not really focused on my workout. That's the thing. Once you're fixated on, I got an approach. I guess the argument would be if you're a confident guy who's done a lot of approaches, then you can do that. You can get away with that because you can just do it quickly, get the number, get back to the workout. But that's the thing. I think in my case, since I'm more of an intermediate level at cold approach at this point, and as far as day game goes, I have to I'm working up the courage in my mind. I'm managing the stress, the anxiety to go make the approach. So that's why it's consuming a lot more time because of the whole thought process, getting the logistics, when to approach, making sure it's in between set. That's really eating up a lot of time, as opposed to a guy that's really confident in approach a lot. I think maybe that's the case for the guy I was talking about, why you should do it, because he's done it so much that he can do it quickly without it really interfering with his workout. So yeah, we talk about, not hesitating on the approach. A lot of times, you're thinking about the approach too much. You really can talk yourself out of it. It's crazy how nervous you can get. I remember one time a couple times being so nervous that I'm just like, sometimes when you're so nervous, you almost kind of like just zone in to, the task at hand. You're just like thinking about the interaction in your mind. You're just like, your heart is just pounding. It's crazy how fast, when you're doing it, like when you're nervous, the approach is crazy how fast your heart can beat. It feels like your heart's just, going to beat out of your chest. It's just, your heart's going a million miles an hour. It's crazy. Just how nervous you can be. I remember I was so nervous one approach, I actually bumped my shoulder or my head against one of the weight equipments. This was at the gym. This was in the summer. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, I saw that girl at the gym. I saw her at work the next day. It's funny how there's some girls you just see like over and over again. A lot of girls that you see at the gym, you'll see, out at the bar sometimes, and then you'll see them like out at the store. It's just funny how you see some people over and over again. It's funny how you see some women over and over again. It's really interesting. But yeah, that's one kind of thing you talk about. A lot of times you see the same girls at the gym, at bars and clubs, and you kind of worry about some of the girls that go to bars and clubs and the gym frequently, and they're wearing, always wearing spandex sports bras. You kind of worry about those girls that they're going to stay single, because you think that, I kind of touched on this earlier. Girls that stay single, for girls over 19, 20 years old, she's still single, then you got to think there must be some sort of flaw in that girl, that either she's rejecting a lot of men. It's a combination, one or the other. It's either she's rejecting a lot of guys, she has high standards, or she just, a lot of the guys that she's interacting with do not see her as relationship material. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I want to talk about is, a lot of times I think a lot of guys go for girls with boyfriends, because a lot of times I've noticed girls with boyfriends, they tend to be more like nicer, more feminine girls. Most of the time, obviously not always, obviously there's still a lot of single girls that are nicer and feminine, but girls in relationships tend to be more nicer and more feminine, just because if they're in a relationship, obviously they have, most of the time, 95% of the time, they have good qualities that a man sees to have a relationship. I know that's not always the case. I know a lot of men will say, yeah, well, there's girls in relationships who they're with a guy that's, kind of beta, not the most confident guy. They just, because they want to control him and they're more masculine. I know that's the case some percentage of the time, but that's a small percentage. I think a lot of women that are in relationships, especially if the guy's a confident guy, fairly good looking guy, in shape, those guys tend to be, they really find, gems. And, sometimes I'll, not really necessarily jealousy, but sometimes I'll see a guy with a quality, like a good looking girl that seems nice and feminine, and I'll kind of, a little envy, I guess, a little bit of jealousy that, he did his due diligence of making approaches, getting rejected, going through trial and error to find a good quality woman. It's not easy. It's a lot more. It's a lot easier said than done these days. But yeah, credit that guy for doing what they needed to do to find a quality feminine woman. So it's not easy. I'll never forget, I was at my job, and this guy came in with an attractive girl. She seemed very feminine, friendly. She was very attractive. He was a tall guy. Seemed like he's a masculine, strong, a guy who really knows who he is, got a confidence, a swagger about him. So yeah, when they came and I was talking to him, it was no surprise. That they he was with her. So yeah, that's the thing. A lot of guys really understand, that they got to get a good quality feminine woman. That guy has done his due diligence. You assume that guy has went through trial and error. Probably is not the first girl he talked to. It's probably, he probably dealt with some girls who, maybe he hooked up with and just, deleted their number or didn't, moved on from them. Maybe he had his heart broken once or twice. I would assume, every guy's probably had at least, not even probably, every guy's had at least one heartbreak. So I assume he probably went through a heartbreak. I know I'm kind of guessing and assuming a lot of things about this guy's life, but I think there's a lot, based off of, just that one interaction. It's there's a lot of things you can kind of guess, and a hypothesis you can kind of test you can kind of formulate in your mind when you interact with any given person, or if you look at any sort of relationship. There's a lot of you can kind of read the dynamic of the relationship. You can kind of tell who, people always use the expression who wears the pants in the relationship, but you can kind of tell if the relationship's led by the man or if the relationship's led by the female. So interesting stuff. But yeah, the guy seemed like a confident guy, seemed like a cool guy. I noticed that you see kind of high school teen movies, guys always joke about not trying too hard, don't be a try hard, don't care, stop caring about stuff. That's what I noticed, a lot of these guys, taller, attractive dudes, they come in with an attractive girl. I noticed they seem to be chill, laid back. They seem like guys who, they're not, trying too hard to impress people. Like if they're in a social gathering, they're probably not trying to be like the clown of the group. They're probably the laid back guy who does talk, but he's not, he doesn't want to be the center of the attention. He doesn't want to be just a complete clown, but he knows who he is. And when he says, people listen, and he's a guy that is garnered probably quite a bit of respect throughout the course of his life. So yeah, I mean, really can't, it's really crazy how indirect girls can be. It is kind of crazy. There'll be times where, you're talking, like, if you have sometimes you can be talking to two girls and they're kind of like, not really, like, they're paying attention to you, but they're kind of like, talking to themselves like really loudly to kind of like show off, they're like being like really indirect with you. It's funny how I've touched on this, multiple times, how indirect girls can be. It's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's so many, that's what's funny about talking to girls. There's so many random interactions you can have. There's so many different, each girl's different. Each approach is a different approach. It's funny. I've noticed some girls will show interest one day, and then if you're around them another day, they'll show no interest. Basically what that means, what I've noticed, I think girls that are actually into you, say you've seen them, like you'll see them, if you run into them 2-3 times, they'll give you indicators of interest each time. I've noticed there's be some girls that if you see multiple times out in a public place, they'll give you an indicator of interest once, but when you see them again, they'll kind of just they won't give you any indicators of interest. I think that's really, it's just, I think what it's showing is they really weren't that interested in the first place. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that, stuff like that happens. But yeah, I mean, dating's tough right now. Obviously the average man is brutal. It's brutal out there. Being an average guy is, it's one of those things where you kind of just have to improve. You got to get better each day. If you are just an average guy, I mean, it's one step at a time. I honestly, if you're an average guy, I think you really got to prioritize the gym first of all. I think the gym is going to build a foundation. I think that's what's really helped me. Going to the gym every day, being consistent in the gym, that's really, that's establishing a strong foundation that's kind of going to carry you forward. It's going to build a stronger mind. It's going to build discipline. So yeah, getting in the gym, I think, doesn't really have a direct correlation with success with women, but success in the gym really makes your mind stronger, helps you deal with the the heartbreak and the hardships of rejection. So, basically getting in the gym, I think, helps you with just about every aspect of your life, including dating, even though it's not. Obviously, getting in the gym is not going to magically get you dates. It's not going to magically get you women. It's not going to magically get you married. It's not going to magically get you kids. But it is going to help you to attract women. And it's going to help you to be more confident talking to women. It's going to help you to, quickly forget about the rejection and not have the rejection kind of replay over and over again in your mind. So, rejection, it's tough. I think, honestly, you really need to feel rejection a little bit. If rejection doesn't bother you at all, I think, you could probably need to start to wonder if you're a psychopath, because I think it's meant to bother you a little bit. But yeah, that's, you want to build a strong foundation in the gym, and you want to have a strong mind so you can really handle and deal with rejection that happens to you. But yeah, I think, so I was talking earlier about ideally, if you're an average guy, probably your best strategy, if you don't want to do the work and self-improve, which I don't understand why you wouldn't, but I think your best strategy for the average guy is to just spam approach as many girls as possible. Obviously that's tough. Obviously that can be time consuming at times, but you're gonna be an average guy. You're gonna have to understand. You're gonna take some lumps. I mean, you're gonna get 6. You're gonna approach 10 women. You're gonna get maybe 2 numbers. You're gonna get maybe a date out of that. Ideally, probably if you're average looking, if you're approaching, especially if you're approaching more attractive girls, you're probably gonna have to approach 25, 30 girls to get 1 date. So it's going to be tough. You're going to have to play the numbers. You're going to have to roll the dice. You're going to have to hope for some luck. But that's the thing that Andrew Tate really talks about, is the problem with, if you're an average guy and get a girl, then all average guys are competition. So, that means your girl gets with average guys. So that's what's kind of tough about the game, being an average dude. So it's a tough game out here. You got to be on your grind. You got to be improving looks, money, and status. Because if you don't choose to do so, you really are playing it's like the expression Andrew Tate says, you really are at the mercy of the wind, Obviously, approaching more women, you're going to put yourself ahead of the pack, but you're still not going to be able to. Like, that's the thing. If you're an average guy, you take an average guy versus a very good-looking guy who's got some sort, got some money, maybe got a little bit of status. That guy with that guy might only have to approach 10 guys, as opposed to an average-looking guy is going to have to approach maybe 50 to 100 women, So, that's the thing. If you, as an average guy, you're going to have to do almost, twice the work, 5 times the work, to really get some of the same results. That's what average dating coaches have really hammered at home, that, you can get good, you can have success with women at just about looking almost any sort of way, but you can't, it's going to be harder, and it's, you're never going to get fully, why looks are so important is because, some guys have touched on this before. When you're a really good looking guy, you get girls who genuinely have a genuine burning desire for you when they look at you. Like, you can see it in their eyes. And that's something, if you stay average, especially average looks, if you stay a little out of shape with a gut on you, some skinny arms or, scrawny legs, you're never going to get a woman that's going to look at you with genuine desire. You're never going to get like the light bulb from when a woman looks at you. You're never going to get the instant attraction. That's never going to happen if you stay an average guy. And that's the thing. Sometimes in life, it's about the deck of cards you're dealt. If you're born 5'6", 5'7", you were born with a couple with 1 or 2 bad cards, but that's the cool thing about being a man in life. You can choose to stand up and make the most of that opportunity. You can make the most of that situation. You can get as ripped as possible. You can get as good socially as possible. You can get as confident as possible. You get as funny as possible. You can hit the gym as hard. You can become a bodybuilder. You can become a lawyer. You can become, a mayor, someone who's respected in his town by his peers. So there's a lot of things you can do to make up for, a lack of a physical presence, if you will. But yeah, it's interesting being out in public. It's interesting going out in public when you don't have the mindset of when you go to the gym with the focus just on the gym. It's crazy how you get more looks, indicators of interest from women when you go to the gym strictly to hit the gym. It's crazy how that phenomenon works. Like I noticed today, like when you go and you're feeling good, like and you're kind of like looking around to see like if any women are checking you out, or you're seeing if any women's making eye contact with you to potentially approach, then you're really not as focused on. You start to not really be as focused on the workout, number one, and you start to really give off the kind of the desperate, thirsty looks, and women can sense that. You don't really get women coming next to you. You don't get women that are copying your workout, following you around the gym. You tend to not get that as much. So that's really interesting. One thing I've I kind of need to just approach, but sometimes I'm getting looks and I can't tell if these women have bad attitudes or not. Some women you can kind of quickly tell if they have a bad attitude or not, just based on their looks. But I think, I think the one thing guys get frustrated with is a lot of girls will give men choosing signals for the wrong reason. Either it's because they found like one part of them attractive, they find they like their hair, so they'll look at them. They'll look, maybe even put themselves in their vicinity, but it's really just to look at, focusing on that one part of their body. They're not really all that attracted to them. So that's how there can be indicators of interest for the wrong reasons. But yeah, when everyone talks about, talking to women, everyone, you always hear the expression, it's a numbers game. But, it's kind of like, I guess if you compare pickup, cold approach to football, it's one of those things where it's like Alabama football's won all these championships in college football, but they've done things to, and obviously you're going to lose games, kind of like in the same way when you approach women, you're going to get rejected. But if you recruit at a high level, if you prepare at a high level, if you coach at a high level, kind of the same thing with men. If you improve your looks, money, and status, if you practice cold approaching, if you improve your social skills and charisma, if you do everything you can to prepare as well as you can, almost kind of like you're, like studying for a test. If you do everything you can to prepare and be well trained and be ready to go, you're going to get some more lucky opportunities. The numbers are going to kind of are going to fall in your favor, as opposed to if you're a guy who chooses to eat Cheetos, play PlayStation, suck down Mountain Dew all day, a lot of the numbers are not going to be in your favor. Even if you take a fat dork who plays PlayStation, drinks Mountain Dew, and eats Cheetos, even if he does approach 100 women, how effective can he really be? Maybe he gets a date from that. But even so, you talk about confidence comes from accomplishing things. How is he even going to be confident on that date? Now, people talk about there's a lot of bums that do have some confidence. Those are guys that are kind of the exception. It's really hard. It's very hard to have confidence when your life revolves around playing video games, eating as many Cheetos as you can, and shotgunning Mountain Dew. It's really difficult. If you have confidence, it's almost just pure delusion. Really, it's not even confidence, because so that's why it's so hard to really have confidence as a guy when you're not out there accomplishing things. Like, that's the thing. I think the case for me. I've started to get a little bit more confident just from hitting the gym every day, just because like when you're putting your body through pain, you start to, when you're doing things others are not, you don't necessarily think you're better than others, but you start to think, why would I not be confident when I'm doing things that people don't want to do? It's like David Goggins says, take pleasure in doing things that people don't want to do. So I think that's the case with me. I'm doing things that people don't want to do. I'm taking pride in that. I'm going to the gym when I don't feel like. So I think that gives me that's built up at least some inner confidence in myself. And I think a lot of guys go to the gym to do that too, to not be, maybe to compare themselves to others at times like they shouldn't. I got to be as strong as this guy. I got to be, bigger than this guy, which I guess isn't all bad, comparing yourself to others, because you want to be, whatever you do, you want to be the best. Like, I want this to be the best podcast. So whatever you do, you want to be the best. And that means you got to out-compete a majority of men. That's, Andrew Tate talks about, for every woman you see, there's other guys that want that woman. There's no, especially if she's an attractive girl, there's no attractive girl today where no guy has ever had the thought of getting her. So you got to compete against all the guys that are getting her, all the guys that she's interested in, all the guys that she's going to be interested in the future, all the guys that she used to date. So that it's competitive. Life as a man is competitive. You got to get after it. You got to do stuff that no one else wants to do. You got to get uncomfortable. You got to do some things and just get after it each and every day, because it's tough. It's tough out here. Each day's a grind. You got to embrace the challenge. Tomorrow, I'm already thinking about, I got to get to bed soon. I got to go to work. I got, I'm having trouble sleeping at night, and it's tough. But you can't just perform. You can't just not go to work. I have a duty to go to work. I have a duty to my coworkers. So you got to get up, get after it. A lot of times you're talking to customers all day. You can't just, especially when customer service is a priority, you have to be, you got to be on point. You can't just be in a dull, boring mood. You have to, put a smile on, be as nice as possible, be as friendly as possible, provide as good a customer service as possible. So each day is a grind as a man. You got to compete. It's, that's the thing. These rich men, attractive, successful men that have all these options, they're on boats with a lot of attractive women that, frankly have just, been gifted with beauty. But those guys have put in the work. They got up every day and refused to be average. I think that is one expression that you want to repeat over and over in your life is refuse to be average. Do not accept, you got to become something in your life. I think for me, I think it's tough because I think too many guys are just living life like I'm just going to be a guy who works, goes home, watches Sports Center, maybe gets a girlfriend once in a while, maybe gets a date once in a while. I mean, I think, to me, it's sad that not every man who's living that life doesn't have a burning passion to get better inside of him. It's too bad. And sometimes sometimes things in your life have to happen for you to do that. Sometimes someone's going to have to pass away. Sometimes you're going to have to get your heart broken. Sometimes you're going to have to get rejected for a job you really want. Sometimes things are just going to have to, sometimes things are just going to have to go wrong for you to get better. You got to, but yeah, I mean, it's tough out here. I know today I didn't want to go to the gym. I know I was squatting today. I was just in a lot of pain. And I was just like, you ever start out at the gym and you're thinking like, this is going to suck. Like this, like sometimes the first few reps just hurt so bad. Like I'm just stiff. I haven't stretched and I'm like, dang, this is going to be awful. But as you keep going, you start to get into a little bit of a flow. You get a pump going. You start to feel a little bit better and better. You start to gradually increase the weight. You start to do some more reps. That pain starts to lessen a little bit. sometimes you get a little bit of energy, testosterone boost. So that's why the gym, just getting your butt in the gym, it's kind of like professors talk about the best way to pass class, just showing up to class. It's kind of like the best way to succeed in the gym is just going to the gym, like just stepping foot in the gym. Because you got to think, when you're in the gym, it's kind of like if you're in a social setting and you're not talking to anyone, it's kind of makes you look weird. Like I know I've been in that situation. Going to the gym, if you go to the gym and you're not doing anything, if you're just standing there, then you just kind of look weird. You look off. You look like something's wrong with you. It's kind of like the good peer pressure, if you will. Like everyone else is working out, so you're just gonna be the only one that's not working out. That's just sitting there, standing in a corner on your phone, sitting on the machine on the phone while people are waiting for it. Is that gonna be you? Or are you gonna get your sets in? Are you gonna, create a workout routine? Are you gonna squat today? Are you gonna deadlift today? Are you gonna go heavy? Are you gonna push yourself? Are you gonna try to get that extra rep? So that's what's so important about the gym. You're challenging yourself. You're trying to be better. Be better today than you were the day before. Are you getting better? Or are you getting worse? It's an expression that the Michigan football coach, Bo Schembecker, used to say, but it's a very true expression. I think it's 100% true. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You don't really stay the same. Like if you look at your life one year and then you look at your life next year, I think oftentimes you say you got better. I think you look at, I would say most people are getting better, but I think where people notice, people notice within a month span. I always think of a month, 2 months, a few months, month to 3 months, you really notice. Like if you're getting worse, I think that's when you start to make changes in your life. Because I think some people will be getting worse, will get worse in a month or two, say that, I don't know, they deal with a heartbreak and they're, struggling with alcohol or something. I think they really notice that they've kind of fallen from grace in that month or two span and they kind of turn things around. So obviously people do get worse in a year, but I think it's over a month, 2-3 month spans. People notice they're really getting worse and worse. So I think it's important to realize that and to get back on track. But yeah, gym was tough today. I started to feel really good though. Kind of noticed the secret was to just, keep on a long sleeve shirt. Just what I found when I break like a big sweat, I start to feel, it's obviously kind of a little uncomfortable when you initially break that sweat, but once you kind of get over that barrier and you feel uncomfortable with that sweat broken, then you feel a little bit better. You have like immediate energy boost and you kind of like, it's almost like you become so uncomfortable that you want to just keep working out, or you want to keep working out to feel better. So that's the thing when you don't break that sweat, when you don't fully commit to going hard, then your brain's kind of like, you still feel uncomfortable, like your brain's kind of like teetering on, okay, are we gonna, take it to the next level, or are we just gonna kind of stay complacent here? But yeah, you gotta, it's each day really is a grind. As a man, I think, working, where I work, I see guys come in, that work for FedEx, UPS, drop stuff off my work, and I have the ultimate respect for those guys because they keep coming back at it every day, and I make sure to thank them each time. I know Andrew Tate talks about this, appreciate guys who are doing non-glamorous jobs, thank them, treat them with the ultimate respect. There's guys who, the one guy for UPS, FedEx, they come in every day. One guy that used to come in drenched with sweat, moving boxes all day. I just say, hey, how you doing, man? Appreciate it. Thank them. Just take the time out of your day to do that to people. I think that goes a long way. Sometimes that's all people need to really kind of flip your day. You ever have something I know I have that at work too. This lady was saying, thanks for being so nice. It's just stuff like that. Today I'm not like in a bad mood today, but you're kind of in that mood where it's like you're tired. You kind of just want to get through the day, and then you have someone, give you a nice compliment. It kind of gives you that little boost of energy to make the day go faster, make the day a little bit better. It's things like that that go a long way. But yeah, I mean, it was a good day. Every day you should say is a good day. I think when you have the self-talk in your mind, today's not going to be a good day. I think oftentimes it turns out to be a bad day. I think you can kind of change. I don't think it always is in that case, but I think more oftentimes it doesn't, because your mindset and those kind of subconscious thoughts go a long way. So you want to always have thoughts in your, positive thoughts in your head, positive thoughts, that's attack today, let's get better today. You always want to have kind of those thoughts in your mind each and every day. But yeah, we're kind of strained from dating and approaching women. But yeah, I mean, kind of get back on that topic. I'm trying to think, there's always a number of different ways we could take this. I guess, cold approaches came to mind. Let's think about cold approach. So yeah, I think what's interesting about cold approach is, there's a lot of girls that you'll go up and talk to. It's funny how, women, they put on this front like they don't need men, and sometimes they'll even say it. But in reality, a lot of women are really desperate for men to approach them, not just for the attention, but desperate to, be approached by a guy that they actually really find attractive and really like. So I think, a lot of times though, they don't like you, and you approach them and they kind of act like they're very dismissive. And they're not trying to be rude, but they're trying to make sure they're not giving any indicators of interest. And I know this I've had a lot of times when I've approached. I say a lot of times. I've had it a decent amount of times. Is they just don't. They're kind of trying to find that middle ground where they don't want to be completely rude, but they don't want to give you any sort of indicator of interest that makes you want to stay and keep talking to them. So that's what I really tend to notice about women, is they want to always find, if they're not interested, if they don't really like you, they want to find that middle ground of not being rude, but also not giving off, any indicator of interest. But yeah, that's the thing. I think it's funny when sometimes, like, if you're talking to a married woman, she will be open to conversating with you, but she's also closed off at the same time, because obviously she's in must be in a relationship where she's with a guy that she really respects. So yeah, that's always interesting, interacting with women. But I tend to notice that even with older women, women who like you, I was talking to this older lady the other day. Women who like you just make they make the conversation easy for you, and not just older women, but women who like you in general. They'll just you'll see, like, talking to them seems a lot easier. Like, I've noticed, even like when I was a lot more shy, quiet, I noticed that they can sense that women are really good socially, and they'll make the conversation easier for you. They'll they'll transition to topics you like. Everything will become easier. They'll even start to talk more. I've noticed that women do like to talk. Like, even girls I've talked to that weren't really interested, they would, if I commented something about their shirt or commented about something about what they're working out, they will elaborate on them. They'll say they'll talk about recent things they've done. So that's interesting too. But yeah, you'll run into a lot of girls that just don't like you, and that's totally fine. And I talked about this on one of my TikTok videos, that as you level up, you kind of almost will be a little happy with rejection. And I know Austin Dunham was talking about this on one of his videos, because you start to get a little bit happy about rejection, because you start to. Because if you really feel good about yourself, then you have no time if you really feel good about yourself and you're really on your grind, you have really no time to waste on women who don't really like you, don't appreciate you. So that's the thing about why those guys that have really built themselves up, not really embrace or not really necessarily like the rejection, but they do like that they have weeded out a woman that potentially would have just been a time waster, or would have been a date, or would have been a girl that would have flaked on a date or something like that. So yeah, that's interesting there. I talk about some women respect you, or some women are attracted to you, but they don't really like you. Some women like you, but they don't really respect you. So it's kind of interesting. You obviously, the ideal situation, you want to find a woman who, 3 things: likes you, super attracted to you, really respects you. If you can find a woman that has those 3 things, that is it's absolutely critical. Likes you, respects you, respects you, and super attracted to you. If you can those 3 things are kind of like the base, the base foundation of things you're looking for when it comes to finding a woman that would be a good long-term fit with you. I think that's the thing guys will talk about. I talked to this girl, it seemed like I've known her for a long time. I really like her. It's just because oftentimes she really likes you, is attracted to and respects you, that she makes things, conversations, hanging out easy with you. It's not necessarily that maybe you're compatible